We are live on Facebook. I'm joined again by the fabulous Nathan Shah from the Rosscam Family Dental Practice. This is Stephen McInday from Perfect Balance Clinic. You'll see right here. And apparently we're live on Facebook again. We haven't been banned yet, Nathan.
That's it. Thanks for having me again, Stephen.
That's happening. Hopefully the connection's a little bit better today, but we'll see how that goes. So we've got some big questions today. We've been asked by our audience today three questions. But firstly, how's your day been going?
David's been busy, trying to keep everything on top of everything and juggling family life. It's not easy, Stephen, having a 5-year-old and a 4-month-old 24/7 in the house. They do
It must be tough.
You have to keep them entertained.
So have you been able to go outside at all where you are?
Yeah, the restrictions are that we can go for walks and exercise and all of that within a certain parameter of where you live. So we're very lucky that we are lucky that we have quite quiet areas around us that we can go and keep the social distancing alive and kicking.
Yeah. I saw something interesting a couple of weeks ago on your Facebook page where you're in the car doing a lap. Was it that for your health service, or what was that for? Because we were all standing outside clapping for our health service, but what was the car rally for?
That was on St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
As you know, all the parades around the country were cancelled last minute. So it was a community initiative where everybody got together in their cars, and we went around the village where we live in, and we were honking our horns and cheering people on. And it was fantastic. I would say there was at least 50, 60 cars going around, and it showed the community spirit. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing I've come across and learned about people going through this kind of ordeal is that we do still have deep down that community spirit, don't we, as a civilization?
Absolutely, and it's good to see that side of the community come out again. Yeah. And it shows everybody around us how important community is to every single one of us. None of us is an island on our own, and it's great to have a community behind us.
No, it's been quite impressive actually. Some of the things that people have been doing, and just the support of the health service here has been absolutely phenomenal. So it's been great to see, great to be part of it.
Absolutely, and we are very, very grateful to our health service and the frontline staff, and from the bottom up. I'm not going to name names in case I forget to mention anyone, but they are doing a fantastic job, and fair play to them.
Well, so what's it been like over there in Ireland with your health service and the health system as well? Has it put a lot of pressure on the kind of ancillary services to help manage less urgent things?
Yes, obviously the likes of dentistry has been affected. We are very limited to urgent care and emergency care, and a lot of dental practices are closed around the country. But I'm going to talk about us. We are still available to answer questions, and sometimes it's just a friendly voice on the other side of the phone to allay your concerns and reassure you that everything is fine. And we try our best to keep in touch with our patients as much as we can, and give them advice wherever that is possible with the limitations that we have.
Yeah, it's what about the other healthcare system, like the physiotherapists and osteopaths in Ireland and like personal trainers? What are they doing out there?
I am going to be very honest, Stephen. I don't know exactly a lot. I haven't come in contact with a lot of the osteopaths and physios that I know. So I haven't been in touch with them. Maybe I should. And but I'm sure they have their own struggles and limitations given the situation. I think this situation affects everybody equally in one form or another.
Yeah, it's been tough, and I know it's obviously hit people personally very hard, but also economically, it's going to be very interesting to see what's happening. Very traumatic, I imagine, to go through what we're about to go through. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah, scary time.
It is, but at the same time, Stephen, we have to remember that we are all in this together. And if we stand together as a race and as nations, we can overcome this, and we will
Yeah,
overcome this. It's just
absolutely.
a matter of everybody playing their part. And
Yeah,
this will be part of history, but we will overcome this before we know it.
absolutely, absolutely. So my part is I'm going to help sort their backs out. That's going to be my part in history. So your part, very interesting, isn't it? Because
Absolutely.
I had a very interesting question for today. So we're going to find out later what's the weirdest thing that Dr. Nasam's pulled out of someone's mouth. But before we do that, Nasam, I'd be quite interested to understand what's tooth decay. How does it occur? The dentist talks to you about it, but what exactly is it?
Okay, the dental decay, or as it is known widely, dental caries or cavities. Caries and cavities are used synonymously. And Stephen, if I may share my screen, I just pulled up a couple of pictures off the internet, and it might be
Just,
common,
just
and
randomly.
just randomly, but it
He hasn't prepared this at all. You have to understand. It's just like
not at
flick
all.
of a
No,
switch with this thing. It's
I
like amazing.
so what we I'm just going to share my screen. It is
Okay.
quite difficult to explain something when you're not looking at it. So I hope that you can see my screen here, and that's the healthy tooth. Obviously,
Yeah.
everybody knows that the tooth is made out of three different layers on the outer part, which is the enamel, dentine, pulp. The
Okay.
part,
So
yeah,
can I ask you some questions as we go along? Because
of
I
course.
know a lot about bones, but so with a bone, you have the cortical bone that wraps around the outside. Then you have this spongy cancellous bone inside, which is more porous. So you
Yes.
have the Haversian canals, and that's where the blood is and everything else is. How's that similar to a tooth structure?
Well, the bone structure is very, very similar around the body. You have the cortical bone on the outer parts of the jaw, and then this part, which would be kind of in the middle, is the more spongy type of bone. And that is, as I mentioned before, it's not fully attached to the tooth structure. There is
Yeah.
a little membrane called the periodontal membrane that separates the tooth from the bone, and it gives it that physiological movement that teeth normally have. So that's to answer your question. And the blood supply enters the tooth here right at the bottom,
Yeah.
where we call basically the apex of the tooth, and that's where the nerve supply, the blood supply, enters the tooth and keeps the tooth alive and kicking.
So does the enamel have its own blood supply that comes to it? Is it a living structure or is it an inert structure?
The enamel is not. The enamel is the kind of crystallized, for want of a better word, part of the tooth where that's why the decay normally starts in the outer part, and it slowly and gradually makes its way to the dentine, which is the live part. Dentine does have blood supply and nerve supply in particular. That's why when the dentine is exposed in that part, you would start to feel the sensitivity and the discomfort that is associated with tooth decay.
Yeah.
So if we can go to the next one. And so tooth decay, basically what happens is, as you remember, we mentioned every time we eat something, the pH or the acidity of the mouth becomes very low. And that over time, if that acidic insult to the outer part of the tooth continues for prolonged periods of time, especially if the plaque is forming on the outer part of the tooth, you start getting weakening in the enamel of the tooth, which basically becomes a little bit more chalky and weakened.
Yeah.
Now let's go back.
Guys, if you're watching this live on Facebook or in the watch parties have been set up, please feel free to ask questions because we'd love to put the test out Dr. Nathan's knowledge and see just how good this cat is. So let's see how far we can push him. So I've got a question for you, if I may.
Of course.
So I asked you last week about me and my fruit juice. So there's a chap online, Mr. Coleman. So Mr. Coleman has a fantastic company that distributes fruit juice and vegetable juice, importantly, to people. What would you say the best and the worst type of fruit juice is, or vegetable juice is to have for your teeth? What's the worst type you could have? What's the most acidic?
Uh, Off the top of my head, I'm just thinking out loud. Citrus fruits, for example, could be quite acidic,
Yeah,
such as orange juice, lemonades, lemon juice, and these kind of things.
yeah,
Uh, and they do contain sugar as well. Uh, for example, apple juice, it might not be as acidic. Now, I don't know exactly, I'm just talking off the top of my head, but it might not be as acidic as orange juice, for example, but
yeah.
apple juice is quite high in sugar content. So we have to be careful that if we are enjoying the occasional fruit juice, it is absolutely fine, but everything in moderation. We have to be very, very careful about how often in particular, like if we don't give our mouths time to recover from the acidity and the sugar in our diet, it could have effects long term on our teeth.
Right. Is there any way to prevent that with the fruit juices? Sorry, I'm being very selfish here and hogging the questions, but I'm very
That's okay.
interested in my own
With the
health.
fruit juice, I think I mentioned in moderation. That
Yeah,
is a very, very important thing. So not basically instead of water, you can't be drinking fruit juice to rehydrate.
yeah,
Water is one of the best things to for our hydration and at the same time for our teeth. So having a fruit juice with our meals, it's acceptable, but in between meal times, we shouldn't really be indulging in a lot of sweets, treats, including fruit juices and stuff like that. So if we're having them at set times, that is okay, but we have to give the mouth time to recover from
and
the
vegetable juice, because I know Clive Coleman does vegetable juices as well. But what type of vegetable would you say vegetable is better than fruit juice? Less acidic, maybe.
But
Sugar.
possibly certain vegetables are quite alkaline, so the acidity might not be as big an issue. But at the same time, we have to ensure that the sugar content. I'm just making a general comment because I don't want to go into specifics. I might not know the answer. Is the honest answer?
Good, excellent. Yeah. So I guess the sugar content and the acidity is
Yes,
probably quite the two things you want to look out for with that, and the quantity. So not having as much of it when you are having it.
exactly,
I
exactly.
guess you wouldn't want to rinse your mouth out with the stuff, right? Just drink it
Ab-
straight away.
Absolutely not.
And does a straw make a difference out of interest? Do you drink it with a straw?
To a certain degree, it does because the mouth is not, or the teeth aren't being washed with the fruit juice and stuff like that. So yes, it can reduce the effect, but at the same time, if you're drinking it with a straw and you have a habit of swishing it around the mouth and all of that, it defeats the purpose. It probably will have the same damaging effects.
So intravenous fruit juice for me then.
It looks like it, Stephen, if you're that much attached to them.
IV fruit juice. Mr. Coleman, IV fruit juice. That's what you need to invent next, my friend.
That's exactly it.
So tooth decay. Let's learn
So
about that.
So once the enamel starts to weaken, it can start, the decay starts under the surface, if we can see, and that outer surface of the enamel might still be intact, and that's what we call dental caries. But if that process keeps going and the cavity starts to become bigger and bigger, eventually that dental caries might start to become a dental cavity. And the dental cavity is basically a hole in your tooth that needs to be addressed by the dentist. at the very, very early stages, when the dental caries is confined to the outer surfaces of enamel, it can be reversed in certain situations. That's where going to the dentist regularly is important, because the enamel looks different, and the dentist can tell you that there is weakness in the enamel, and there might be ways of addressing those areas and strengthening them. But if that process keeps going and it goes into third layer of the tooth, which is the pulp of the tooth where the nerve supply and the blood supply is, that is basically when you start getting dental infections, abscesses, and the associated pain and discomfort that goes with it. So that is, in a nutshell, dental caries. So this is the final.
When do you start to get pain from it? Obviously, this is when it starts to go into the dentine is when you get pain, it looks like.
Yes. So when it's confined in the outer layers of enamel, it is most likely not painful. When it becomes a little bit deeper and closer to the dentine, you might start getting some sort of sensitivity. But when it goes to the dentine, normally patients can feel sensitivity, especially with fruit or sweet foods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Once it is in the pulp, you're most likely going to feel that in most cases anyways.
Right, interesting.
So I hope that answers your question about dental decay, Stephen.
So effectively, it's the death of the enamel. So it starts on the outside, works its way in slowly. It becomes more painful the more internal it goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when the idea of basically regular dental checkups and all of that is to catch these things as early as possible. So the earlier you catch them, the more manageable they are, the less tooth structure has been damaged, and it can be easier to restore them to their function. Obviously, the best thing is to prevent tooth decay and caries at the first instance, but when things get a little bit deeper, that's where we're here to help people as much as we can.
Fantastic. So how would a dentist just tell me what it looks like when you see it on the surface? What would a dentist see?
It depends on what stage it's at, Stephen. Sometimes the enamel looks a little bit chalkier, which could give an indication that there is something going on under the surface. Sometimes you can see the darkness of the decay under the surface. And a lot of times, Stephen, we can't see it with the naked eye, and that's where dental x-rays come in very handy. For example, if the decay is right in between the teeth, it might be very, very difficult to see them, and that's where dental x-rays come in very handy, where it shows slices kind of in between the teeth, and you can see if there is any holes or damage happening in between the teeth.
That is very interesting. Very interesting. So you mentioned about prevention of the enamel being damaged. So how would you, let's say the enamel just starting to go a bit chalky on the surface, what advice would you give to people if they've got chalky enamel or thinning enamel?
Obviously, there's a number of reasons why the enamel might have gotten weakened. Let's concentrate on, for example, the acidic damage and stuff like that from dental plaque and all of that. So the enamel becomes a little bit weaker, but if there isn't extensive decay under the surface, sometimes good oral hygiene helps significantly. There are fluoride toothpaste that we can use, high concentration, fluoride varnishes that we can use in a bid to strengthen those areas. But all of these things work on the premise that the patient themselves is brushing those areas well. By well, I don't mean aggressively, because again, everything in moderation, everything in the mouth. I always say to my patients, everything in the mouth has to be done gently, even the flossing, brushing, and all of these things. You don't want to cause damage on the other side by over brushing that.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask another question? No one else is asking questions. Hopefully, if you listen on Facebook, you can ask questions. Otherwise, I'll just hog all the questions. But aggressive brushing of teeth, is it better to use a a manual toothbrush or an electric toothbrush?
That is a very good question, Stephen. I actually came in prepared when I saw
What
your.
do you have?
Now, let me. I have an electric toothbrush.
Have you got yours there by any chance?
Mine is not there, but I have a sample one that I
I thought you might have. I'm
today.
prepared.
So it's not charged, unfortunately, but because what I thought is in this situation, the best thing is prevention. So obviously we talked about the diet and basically having set meal times, not snacking or grazing throughout the day, especially on sugary foods and stuff like that. So next we come to the brushing and
Flossing.
the flossing
Yeah.
and interdental brushes. So I always, I hope you can see that.
Don't tell me you always carry that around with you.
Yeah, it's always in my backpack.
Is it? Like the
So
Boy Scout dentist, always be prepared.
that's exactly it. Steven, so I always recommend patients getting into a routine about their oral hygiene because a lot of the time I find, especially in the mornings when you're rushing to get to work, trying to get the kids dressed, and you're probably sleepy still, and you want to be into a routine where basically you start from one part of the mouth and work your way around rather than going randomly. So I normally, now let me just see if I can make this a little bit clearer. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's really good.
So what I would normally do is always start from the very, very back teeth. And that way you make sure that you're not missing it, for example. Most people start from the front because that's what people see and they want to brush them very well first and come to the second last tooth and forget that poor last tooth that is sitting. And that's where sometimes you get a lot of decay on the sides of the teeth. So you start
Can I ask another question? Sorry, people are going to hate me because I'm just stealing all these questions. But would you say if you were to map out all of the teeth in someone's mouth, percentage-wise, which teeth are more affected with decay than others? Would you say it's that back one?
Our back ones are up there. The other areas that can be affected is right around the neck of our teeth, where basically your gum meets the tooth. So that's what we call the cervical area.
Yeah.
That's the area where a lot of plaque tends to build up. And especially in those very, very back teeth, in that area, it can be prone to decay sometimes. So my recommendation is use if you're using an electric toothbrush, pressure sensors are quite good to give you an indication of how much pressure you're putting because you don't want to put a lot of pressure. So what you do is you start with the back, brush the teeth and the gums gently. That way you're getting right to the neck of those teeth and removing any plaque that might be there. So once you've done the outside going around to the midline, you go back over the top of the teeth, for example, and then right to the midline, and then you do the inside of the teeth in the same manner as much as possible.
Obviously, that's very quick there. You don't brush your teeth like that, I hope, at home.
No, that was very, very
That
quick.
was too quick. Even I know that. It's much too quick.
Absolutely. You have to spend
slow and steady.
Absolutely. It's normally those electric toothbrushes. What I like about them is they are efficient. When used correctly, they are very, very effective. They have timers, they have pressure sensors, a lot of them. So they can keep you on track with your brushing, basically. The minimum recommendation for brushing your teeth is 2 minutes. So that roughly means 30 seconds on each quarter of the mouth. That's why I was saying start with one side, do the midline, and then concentrate on the same quarter, and that's 30 seconds.
Even that seems too fast.
It does seem too fast, but that, as I said, is the minimum. A lot of people
that's like 4.5, 5 seconds on each tooth properly. So that's
even less than that. And believe me, Stephen, if you time yourself the next time you're brushing, a lot of people don't brush their teeth for 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a very long time when you're brushing your teeth. Trust me.
Yeah. I
It,
must be away with the fairies when I'm brushing my teeth then.
so yeah, no,
It's
it
like
is good
quick.
to have a timer. Even egg timers are quite good for children to give them an idea of what
Yeah.
2 minutes actually means in real time for them.
Yeah.
So that's quite important. So the two advices that I can really reiterate to people watching us is uh, get into a routine. Start from one spot. Say if you're starting from your top left hand side, start with that side all the time, and that way, even when you're not thinking about it, thinking about all the other things that you want to do for the rest of the day, you have developed a muscle memory, and that basically helps you be on track with your brushing. So getting into a routine is quite important. Not using excessive pressure. Just while we are on the topic of brushing, you can do as good a job with a regular toothbrush, but the techniques have to be quite good as well. And I personally like electric toothbrushes, but regular toothbrushes are good as well and very effective when used properly.
I think you should come and run a course for us. We've got lots of online courses at the moment. I'd love, if people are really interested, put your details in the box below. If anyone would love to be involved in a toothbrushing class, I think we should run a toothbrushing class. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, anything if people want me
Let's
to.
see. Put your details in the box below. Say tooth, TOOTH, in the box below, and we'll see who's interested in a toothbrushing class.
Absolutely. And Stephen, in our clinic, we spend a lot of time going through these things because dental treatment is one aspect of what we do in clinics, but the education about each individual
Yeah,
patient's
yeah,
way of caring for their teeth is extremely important.
exactly. And that's exactly why I wanted to get you on the line, because when I'm at the dentist, I can't wait to get out of there because it's stressful. I'm like thinking he's going to charge me a ton of money. What's he going to want to X-ray next? Not that I've got bad teeth, and I don't actually go that often, so that's probably why. But it's a stressful experience for some people, right? So the last thing you want to do is to sit there and be educated by a dentist. So that's exactly why I thought you'd be a great person to speak to, because we talked last week about the impact that teeth can have on your general health as well. And there's lots of things that people can do with their teeth, right, just to prevent issues with
Absolutely.
their general health.
I always say this, Stephen. We are not in the business of giving out or enforcing anything. We lovingly encourage patients to do these things because at the end of the day, prevention is better than any cure. And if we are going back to basics and really concentrating on those very simple methods, but extremely effective ways of caring for our teeth, it reduces the amount of damage that can happen over time and stuff like that. It's all
Yeah.
about the basics. And this is what we need in times like these when we are all stuck at home and there is plenty of food on the table and you want to basically graze at them all the time. So we have to go back to basics. Remember to keep the snacks for snack times or meal times and concentrate on those habits and develop on them.
Straight from the horse's mouth. So we've got a live demonstration. So one of the questions we got asked today was about flossing. So I have actually got my kids flossing Dentex
Yes.
here. You're actually going to show us how to use these things properly. Now, they come in, there's lots of different types of these, aren't there? This was about £3 from Manor Pharmacy in Harpenden. There's 40 of them in there. How many, you use one every time, right? When you use these
Yes.
things?
These things are meant to be a single use, Steve, so they're not recommended to be used multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And they often with like a pick on the end sometimes, don't they?
Yes, some of them do, some of them don't. It's the idea of the floss is basically it's the string that does most of
Yeah.
the handle itself. Yes, it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. but at the end of the day, it's the basically the little string or the floss in the middle that is important if used correctly. I personally like the regular dental floss because it's a little bit more flexible, but a lot
Yeah.
of people might find them a little bit flimsy or a little bit difficult to use. There are ways that they can be used. They can be wrapped around the fingers gently, and that way it gives you good control. Or some people tie a knot on the ends and they end up with, let me make this circle a bit. So with the circle that they can hold basically the circle and get in between the teeth. Now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use those little flossettes.
Yeah.
Just easier to demonstrate. So you can use both in the same manner. One of the mistakes that a lot of patients that I see make is they put the floss in between the teeth. I hope you can see this. It's not the easiest thing to demonstrate, but they kind of go in and out in a seesaw motion, or kind of just in and out, straight up and down. And those two methods might not be as effective as using the floss in this manner. So what you do is you go with the floss in between the teeth, and then you have to push it against the tooth. I hope you can see this. Push it against the tooth, so you're actually scraping the side
Ah,
of the
there you go.
tooth and then scraping the side of the other tooth, obviously gently, so that you're not damaging the gum or hurting the gum in that process. So what that translates to, if that is the surface in between the teeth and my finger is the floss, you're kind of scraping the sides of the teeth. So if there is any plaque or stuff, food stuff build up between your teeth, you're gently removing those areas and reducing the damage that that plaque can do to your teeth in the areas in between the teeth.
I don't ever remember being told by a dentist exactly how to floss. That's weird, right? They just tell you have to floss.
Yes, I think one of the mistakes that us dentists do is we assume that these are kind of widely known knowledge because we go through these things every day, and sometimes we do forget. And I apologize on behalf of my colleagues.
Colleagues, yeah.
Yeah, it can be. We find it very simple because we do it day in and day out.
Yeah.
But sometimes I have to remind myself that yes, it might be a very common knowledge for me, but some patients might not know the correct techniques, and it's all about techniques. And Stephen, at the end of the day, it's going back to the basics, and if we develop those techniques, because a lot of patients that come my way, they've been using the floss for years, but if they're not using it correctly, they might not be getting the benefit that they should from those aids that they have at home.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm similar with like back problems. So we see a ton of people with back problems as an osteopath and with physiotherapy and stuff, but it's apparently not common knowledge that bending over and lifting very heavy objects can mess up your back. But people constantly doing it, and you assume they know how to lift properly, but it's one of those things that you should really spend a lot more time educating people on doing that. But you fall into this trap of assuming that everyone knows not to be bending over and lifting stuff, or bending all day long in the garden at the weekends, and then they come in
Absolutely.
on Monday with a bad back and wonder why.
Yeah, no, I do get reminded of my mistakes every now and again when I lift something heavy in the wrong way, and I pay for it the next day.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. I think it's a common thing amongst healthcare practitioners, isn't it? Because I can see up to like 16, 17 people a day sometimes on a busy day, and it's easy to fall into the trap. And I have to actually physically stop myself from doing it, of assuming that people understand what you're talking about. But they're coming
Absolutely.
in with, and I think it's probably a function of, because they're coming in with pain, the rational brain starts to be a bit more kind of hazy, and they're kind of primitive, let's deal with this pain, it really hurts, brain systems are all functioning really highly, and it kind of dilutes the logical reasoning that's there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's fascinating.
It is about reinforcement,
Yeah.
Stephen, and that's why I wanted to come on today and really give those simple tips. I hope people find them useful, because reinforcing those information, even to people who know it, it's I always say this to my patients. A lot of patients kind of they start kind of at the very low. Maybe they're doing the flossing once a week. Once they see the dentist, that curve starts to go up and stays up for about 6 to 8 weeks after they see the dentist, and it plateaus over time, and it starts to dip around the 4 to 5 month mark, and at the 6 month they are back to kind of flossing once a week, and a lot of the patients that I see find that very, very useful, because constant reinforcement gets them to be in the upper part of the curve more regularly in between
Yeah.
visits. So it reduces the amount of damage. So reinforcement is extremely important. I hope that this reinforces it to a lot of people and helps them along the way.
That's it's really, really useful. Really useful. Now, I know there's actually quite a lot of people that have joined us today, and I'm sure they've joined us because they want to know the answer to this question, they said. So, what is the weirdest thing that you pulled out of someone's mouth or seen inside someone's mouth before in professional circumstances, of course, Nathan?
Now, the weirdest thing. So, Stephen, it depends on what you define as weird or strange. To be honest, not much phases us. We've seen a lot of things. I suppose one of the most interesting things that I've seen in my career is a patient who presented with extra wisdom teeth. So normally extra, yeah. So normally we have 32 teeth, and that includes 4 wisdom teeth in each quarter of our mouth. And I saw a patient where basically they had 9 teeth in each quarter, so they had an extra tooth in each quarter, and that was interesting to see. And the funny thing was, if we hadn't taken an X-ray, we would have never found those teeth, but they were there. They weren't any causing any hassle to the patient. So that's something that I found interesting.
Did they get any problems with that?
Uh, Potentially and hypothetically, it could, but in that particular case, no, they were there. They were existing.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we see quite a lot of people with it's called sacralization or lumbarization. So they have an extra lumbar vertebrae,
Okay.
or they have an extra sacral vertebrae. So they have one less lumbar vertebrae. But it doesn't really cause that much of a problem with them, and you would never know until you scan them trying to find out what's wrong with their back, or you X-ray them, and then you see this. We call them anomalies. So they're just things that happen inside people's bodies that you don't really expect to find, but you can find them sometimes. So they're very strange. Cervical ribs, extra ribs up here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's and that just shows, Stephen, we are all unique in our own way.
yeah, very much so. Very much.
Absolutely.
Go on. There must be weirder stuff than that. That's tame.
It is tame, but that was one of the interesting things.
We've got an audience of people watching us, and I don't want to disappoint them by just saying an extra tooth. Come on, there must be some weird stuff you pulled out of people's mouths.
Well, now that I can come to think of it, years ago we had a trauma, and this particular patient, a child, basically had traumatized their upper gums.
Oof.
And
How did they do it? How did they do it? What happened?
if my memory serves me correctly, I think they fell, or they had something, some sort of a toy in their mouth and all of that, and a piece of the plastic was stuck up there.
Oh.
For a few days. It was quite small, but because the area wasn't healing properly, parents were concerned. So that would come up basically to the weirdest things that we've pulled out of.
Was the child was the child in pain with that plastic up there? Did it get infected?
It could potentially do. At that stage, I think it was a couple of weeks after the initial trauma, and but yeah, no, the patient was recovering, but that particular area wasn't recovering as well as it should have, and
Yeah.
once that foreign object was removed, it's the patient recovered very, very well.
Yeah. Should I tell you the weirdest thing that someone's pulled out of my mouth at the dentist?
Go on, tell me.
Popcorn.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's common actually. See, I
Is it?
told Stephen,
I
not
felt awful. I went bright red, and I can't believe I've just told the whole of Facebook what the weirdest thing that came out of my mouth was at dentist. But yeah, a little seed of popcorn. The hygienist was like, "Oh," she pulled it out and she showed me. I must have blushed. I was so embarrassed to have popcorn there.
Yeah,
The worst thing was it had been there for about maybe 2 or 3 days, and I just hadn't been able to get it out properly, I guess. So pretty disgusting, but it's happened
yeah.
to all of us.
No, it's popcorn causes a lot of popcorn kernels in particular causes a
Yeah,
lot.
the hard bit, the popcorn.
The hard bits, yeah. We've seen many a teeth broken because of popcorn kernels in particular. So yeah, it is something that you don't think of, but yeah, it does cause a lot of problems.
It put me off eating popcorn for at least a couple of days again.
Yeah, a couple of days is what you get. They are tasty. We all enjoy them
I
occasionally.
love popcorn.
Yeah,
It's got no calories in it, apparently. Did you know that?
I didn't. No.
Do you know,
I,
I was at the cinema with someone once. I think it was an old girlfriend, and I said to her, "Look, let's get some popcorn." And I said to her, "It doesn't have any calories in it," because I thought she'd be worried about the calories because she was just that type of girl. And so I gave this popcorn to her, and she was fine. She was absolutely fine with it because she looked on the side of it, and it didn't have any calories on it. And she was fine.
yeah, I wonder whether the butter that sometimes goes on those popcorn has the calories.
Oh dear! If she's watching this, she's going to absolutely kill me. I don't think she will be, but let's see. Oh dear, so funny. The
Yeah,
funny things you say to people.
that's it.
Before you were a dentist, did you ever talk about teeth?
Uh, it was always important, Stephen. I I suppose teeth are very, very important, and in this day and age, uh, it is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. It's one of the things that they like to have nice smiles and all of that. At the end
Yeah,
of the day, it's your smile is one of the first things that people see. I came across this very ingenious ad a while ago where basically they had a guy smiling with a missing tooth, and it said
I've
that
seen it.
uh, a smile or a missing tooth is the first thing that people see. And funnily enough, at the bottom in small print, it said, "Have you noticed the guy having no eyebrow? One of the
Yeah.
eyebrows was completely missing, and the first thing that you noticed was the missing tooth, not the missing eyebrow." So,
Oh, it's a brilliant ad. I'm going to find that and put it in the description box below so people can see it. It's the best ad ever.
yeah, no,
Very,
it is fantastic. No, it
very
is.
clever.
Our smile is quite important, and there are simple ways that we can really, really take control of our oral health, especially in those times where things are a little bit more difficult to get to the dentist. So following those simple things hopefully will help a lot of people watching us tonight.
Can I ask you another question before you go? Because you know how much I love asking you questions.
Yeah.
The purpose of a smile. So from an evolutionary perspective, is a smile important for? Is it like a mating thing? Do other animals do it? Like a peacock?
Uh, I'm not sure if other animals do it, but it does have psychological benefits to the person who smiles. There are some psychological studies and research that showed basically even the act of smiling, kind of putting a pen between the teeth in a way that makes you kind of forcibly smile. It changes certain things in our brain chemistry and it lifts the mood. So a smile is quite important, absolutely. So it does, there are a lot of research on how just smiling can lift your mood and change your perspective on a lot of things. So the smile is a great thing. And I know we had a post on our Facebook page, and it said, if you find someone that doesn't have a smile, give them one of yours. And I thought that was quite a genius. I don't know where we got that quotation, but it was fantastic.
Just give them a pen.
That could work too, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't know that it has other issues.
Hopefully you're not going to transmit any nasties along the pen as well.
That's exactly it. We have to be
smiling after that, would they?
Absolutely. I think it is quite important to just take that few seconds in each of our days, basically, especially those days, and smile. And if we find somebody who is in need of a smile, just smiling at them most times makes them smile back at you. So that might be the difference that it had made to that person's life.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, listen, it's been hysterical talking to you. I've really enjoyed it, as always. It's been really good.
The pleasure is mine,
I think we're going to do next week, aren't we? Hopefully.
Hopefully we will try, and if we get any comments with any questions, we will try our absolute best to answer them for you.
Answer them, yeah, good. The House of Health, good. Yeah, so if you've got any questions for next week's health experts, then it'd be great to hear from you. So leave the details in the box below of any questions or any problems you've had with your teeth. We're going to be doing some others. I've got Stan, who's a running coach who works with us, who's going to be coming along. So definitely tune in for that. It's going to be great. It's going to show you how to run quicker in your house when you're locked in at home as well. Maybe outside in the garden if you've got garden, but definitely not in the on the stairs or anything dangerous. We've also got, yeah, exactly. It's going to be good. One of my osteopaths, I've forgotten her name, Ariane. So Ariane's going to come and talk to us about visceral osteopathy. So what goes on inside people's tummies and everything else as well. That might be good. I tell you what I'd love to do is have 3 people on Zoom at the same time. We'll have a Zoom health party scenario. It'd be great. Let's invite them all.
Absolutely. No, it's that those virtual meetings are absolutely fantastic, Stephen. It's fantastic to see that technology is really, really helpful in times like these, keeping people connected. So it's fantastic.
It's been great. Really good. Good. Great. Well,
thank you for having me, Stephen.
No, it's been great. It's been really good. Hopefully you've enjoyed having some conversation as well. It's been great.
Absolutely. And I hope people watching us tonight found some of the information that we gave helpful. And hopefully, if they have any more questions, we'll try our best to answer them for you.
Excellent. And hopefully we brought a smile to everyone's faces. And if we haven't, go to a pen pot and have a go at that. It will make you laugh hysterically. It did make me feel a bit better, actually. So it's good. But anyway, yeah, be careful with pens in your mouth. Not very safe. But
absolutely. We joke about it, but
it has been absolutely fantastic talking to Naysam. And please say hello to your lovely wife. And I'm sure I'll be in touch very soon. And hopefully I don't get in too much trouble later for my comments. I don't think I said anything too incriminating, but let's see. And I will speak to you all later. Take care, guys.
Mind yourself, Stephen.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.